I'll be showing this up on the screen. So you don't need to have your book with you. But if you have a book, it's number 7 in the Middle Length Discourses. And I will read off the sutta and give some explanations. And I'll stop from time to time and ask for your questions or comments. So if something comes to mind, please remember it until we come to a pause when we invite the questions. There we go. This sutta is going to be partly getting into how it is to have stream entry. And it's approaching it from a very heart kind of a level, not so much from meditation procedures or conceptual level, but very much at the feeling level. So it's a lovely sutta. Do you want to get a copy of the Middle Length Discourses or just listen? We have here Aya Suchita. May I speak about the Dhamma? Thank you. We have Aya Suchita and Seminary Dhammadharini and Anagarika Tabira and Upasika Linda. That's who's here. Thus have I heard. On one occasion, the Blessed One was living at Savatthi in Jeta's Grove in Anathapindika's park. There he addressed the bhikkhus thus. Bhikkhus, Venerable Sir, they replied, and the Blessed One said this. We take these teachings to apply to bhikkhunis and to sincere seekers, especially those, in this case, especially those who are seeking the noble path. Bhikkhus, suppose the cloth were defiled and stained, and a dyer dipped it in some dye or other, whether blue or yellow or red or carmine, it would look poorly dyed and impure in color. Why is that? Because of the impurity of the cloth. So too, when the mind is defiled, an unhappy destination may be expected. So the unhappy destination here on the other side, it's dugati, which means a wretched rebirth, or a wretched state of existence, misfortune or poverty. Bhikkhus, suppose a cloth were pure and bright, and a dyer dipped it in some dye or other, whether blue or yellow or red or carmine, it would look well dyed and pure in color. Why is that? Because of the purity of the cloth. So too, when the mind is undefiled, a happy destination may be expected. And the happy destination is the Sugata. Sugata is one of the epithets or the nicknames of the Buddha. I'm going to have to, here. The Sugati is called a happy state. So just how this works mechanically, like how this analogy is working about having an old piece of cloth that's not clean, and then you try to dye it. I would compare it to when they talk about the purification, especially in meditation, well, actually through the whole path, including the developing of Sila, right view, and meditation. They say that the mind becomes pure and malleable, that in the meditation state, there's something about like purifying the mind, like refining the gold, that you take the impurities and blow them off again and again. So then if a person has not developed that mental purification through the path up to and including meditation, then the mind is always subject to impurity. It's subject to taking a stain. It's not safe from acquiring a stain that could lead to a bad destination. What bhikkhus are the imperfections that defile the mind? Covetousness and unrighteous greed is an imperfection that defiles the mind. Ill will, anger, resentment, contempt, insolence, envy, avarice, deceit, fraud, obstinacy, rivalry, conceit, arrogance, vanity, negligence is an imperfection that defiles the mind. This particular list of imperfections is not one that you see again and again throughout the teachings of the Buddha. So what is important to remember are the three roots of greed, hatred, and delusion, and the five hindrances that affect block one from developing meditation, and which block one's progress on the path. I would say that this group in Pali, it's a lot of fun to recite, because it's kind of like a bija visa malobo biapado kodo upanaho upmako palaso issa macharyang maya satyang tambo sarambo mano atimano mado pamado. So just piling on a lot of near synonyms is a way of making something very emphatic. And if you consider these like a greed and ill will is included in the five hindrances, and then insolence, envy, resentment, those things could be like a combination of the self view, having the wrong view of a self combined with anger. And then you get in a mind that's comparing yourself and others and why they got that and I didn't get that and I'm better than them, or somebody thinks they're high and mighty, but they're not that high. And, so having these attitudes of contempt, insolence, and so forth, envy, avarice, the comparing mind, deceit is part of wrong action. That's musawada. And then the last one, called negligence, pamada, is also very important idea. Mado means intoxication, and pamado is, like being so distracted or carried away that you don't even know what you're doing, because you're like a drunk who's in a blackout, and they do all kind of things, and they make promises or they make statements and so forth, and the next day they can't even remember what they did because they're really out of it. So that person's very in danger. And the opposite of negligence is heedfulness, which includes being very mindful at all times, keeping the awareness up and sharp, and also having the mindfulness and clear comprehension, where we are able to make distinctions about what's skillful and unskillful, and we are aware about our state of mind and the suitability and so forth. So just for the purpose of this, we've just piled up we sort of like insulted the imperfections of the mind by calling them a lot of names. Then it goes on. Knowing that covetous and unrighteous greed is an imperfection that defiles the mind, a bhikkhu abandons it. Okay, this is very important. That knowing is called viditva, which is vindati, which it's not describing like high wisdom, but you found out, definitely you found out, you discovered, you realized it. And then the abandoning is a pahana, and that would refer to not the permanent relinquishment of a negativity, but temporarily abandoning it. Like when you go into meditation, you, if you're doing well, you'll be successful in abandoning the hindrances that affect meditation. Knowing how to abandon is definitely part of right effort, and it will be good part of our practice, especially for beginners, to, if you could accumulate several 100,000 events where you recognize something which is unskillful and abandon it. So you develop a very strong habit, skill, and way to abandon what's unskillful. Then, when a bhikkhu has known that covetousness and unrighteous greed is an imperfection that defiles the mind and abandons it, and likewise for all of these other states, then he acquires unwavering confidence in the Buddha. Thus, the Blessed One is accomplished, fully enlightened, perfect in true knowledge and conduct, sublime, knower of the worlds, incomparable leader of persons to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans. And so here, the the acquisition here is this perfect confidence. And at this point, the commentary says the bhikkhu has crossed over to stream entry. They've lost the hindrance of skeptical doubt and acquired that perfect, unwavering confidence. And he acquires unwavering confidence in the Dhamma. Thus, the Dhamma is well proclaimed by the Blessed One, visible here and now, immediately effective, inviting inspection, onward leading, to be experienced by the wise for themselves. He acquires unwavering confidence in the Sangha. Thus, the Sangha of the Blessed One's disciples is practicing the good way, practicing the straight way, practicing the true way, practicing the proper way. That is, the 4 pairs of persons, the 8 types of individuals. This Sangha of the Blessed One's disciples is worthy of gifts, worthy of hospitality, worthy of offerings, worthy of reverential salutation, unsurpassed field of merit for the world. We recite these very often. It's part of the morning puja that we recite. I don't know how it is in every Buddhist country, but I know that in Sri Lanka, I never met anybody who didn't have these statements of the qualities of the Triple Gem down by heart, even down to small children. Everybody knows it and they repeat it and they hear it again and again. They recite it every day, if not many times in the day. If they listen to Dhamma activities, they hear it. If you go to listen to like a recitation of a sutta, before they recite the sutta, they recite this. Or if you listen to a Dhamma talk, before they give the Dhamma talk, they recite this. So then these ideas become then just imprinted on the heart and so well memorized that then when the moment comes as a result of our practice and reflection that this reality becomes real for us, then there's a kind of like a matching up of a realization with what we had previously learned. That word for perfect confidence here, I was looking for that over on the other side. If you're interested in Pali, it's called aveccha pasada. Then he's gotten rid of these imperfections, and now I think it may be going to another level, like a non-returner or something. For one who is a stream enterer, aversion, greed, and aversion are able to arise. Not to the same extent, but they can arise. But for one who is a non-returner, greed and aversion are completely dispelled. So it says here that when he has given up, expelled, released, abandoned, and relinquished the imperfections of the mind in part. Okay, so this statement in part, that means that person is not yet a fully enlightened arahant. They've only come part way down the path. He considers, I am possessed of unwavering confidence in the Buddha, and he gains inspiration. This is what I was trying to get to. Inspiration in the meaning, inspiration in the Dhamma. So the meaning is, the inspiration is related to spiritual urgency, the Pali word. And so it's a religious emotion of strong, uplifting faith and urgency. And gaining inspiration in the meaning. The meaning is the atta, which is something that's got a lot of different definitions. One is like the purpose or the goal. So if I have a book, what's the use of the book? Well, the book is for reading. What good is the book? The book is good to read. Okay, so what good is this confidence? It's good for awakening. And then he gains inspiration in the Dhamma, and then the Dhamma is the truth, which is being taught by the Buddha. So he gains inspiration in the meaning, gains inspiration in the Dhamma, gains gladness connected with the Dhamma. When he is glad, rapture is born in him. In one who is rapturous, the body becomes tranquil. One whose body is tranquil feels pleasure. In one who feels pleasure, the mind becomes concentrated. So in this way, they enter jhana and practice the 4 jhanas. So now you may think, if you're not yet successful in entering the jhana and you want a different way, and instead of thinking of a meditation like, concentrate on the breath at the tip of the nose or something like that, think that you realized the danger in all of those defilements. You gained urgency from that, and you abandoned those defilements, and then you contemplate the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and use that as a basis for gaining this inspiration, and use the inspiration as a basis for gaining jhana. So then these steps that are taken in terms of gladness, rapture, tranquility in the body, pleasure, and concentration is another way of stating the factors of jhana. So if you want to know whether you're getting close, you may see to what degree are some of these factors there present. He considers thus, I am possessed of unwavering confidence in the Dhamma. He gains inspiration in the meaning, gains inspiration in the Dhamma, gains gladness, and so on up to concentration. He considers, I'm possessed of unwavering confidence in the Sangha. He gains inspiration in the meaning, gains inspiration in the Dhamma, gains gladness connected with the Dhamma, when he is glad, and so forth until he becomes concentrated. He considers this would be a meditation on sila. He considers thus, the imperfections of the mind have in part been given up, expelled, released, abandoned, and relinquished by me. And he gains inspiration in the meaning, gains inspiration in the Dhamma, gains gladness, and so forth. The body is tranquil, feels pleasure, and so on until the mind becomes concentrated. So this is knowing the abandoning of these imperfections. And as that is the basis for the inspiration. I'm going to pause here and stop sharing and ask if there's any comments or questions so far. Okay, Ananaya.
Actually, it was a question that Sharon, you put in the chat. It was about righteous greed first, and then paragraphs later it says unrighteous greed. So it seems a strange term.
Unrighteous greed?
Well, both. Righteous greed first, that's up at the top, the first through second paragraph. And then later, a couple paragraphs down, then it says release covetousness and unrighteous greed. Well, either way, righteous or unrighteous, it seems like a strange term for greed. So I'm not sure what, I missed something there. You see what I mean?
Yes, I don't see righteous greed. In the sutta, I only see unrighteous greed. And then I'm going to come back and see what it is in Pali, and then I'll know what it means. Avidya.
Bhante Sujato has immoral greed.
Visama is what's translated as unrighteous. It means uneven, unequal, or disharmonious. And then lobha is the word for greed. So this would, I think, be expressing a manifestation of greed that's leading to social conflict. That's what or it's leading to mental illness or mental unbalance. That's what I think is the meaning of that. That's a very good question, but I don't think it's not like a important technical term. It's just understand the meaning, get the tone of it. Diane.
I don't know the Pali, but I think, what is it, Dhammachanda or something? You have to have greed, you have to have wanting, in other words, you have to be inspired.
You have to have chanda.
To realize enlightenment. So that's a positive greed, so to speak, a righteous greed, whereas the unrighteous.
That's probably it. Yeah.
The unrighteous is the greed for sensual pleasures and stuff like that. So that's why in a lot of the sutras, when it's talking about jhana, it's saying this is a pleasure that's safe, and that's good to have and everything. So
okay.
Yeah. Because if you didn't want to become enlightened, then you couldn't. You have to want it, but it's a different kind of but then you can't cling to it. It's like you have your intention and then you do your practice and it unfolds.
Yeah, I know that. I know about chanda. I guess it just struck me as strange.
I don't think the word righteous greed occurs in the sutta. It's only the word unrighteous greed. It was because I wasn't speaking clearly.
Oh,
Righteous greed.
Okay, it's all right.
Chanda is the word for like a wish or an intention. And you can have like kama chanda is the wish for sex. That's not righteous. And then dhamma chanda is the a wish that's in accordance with the Dhamma to make progress on the path. So chanda is a word for wishing and wanting, which is karmically neutral, but lobha has always got a bad.
I am familiar, remember that. I don't know why, but that just struck me. Maybe it was because it went to first I heard righteous greed and then unrighteous greed. It just didn't, I don't know, didn't compute. But yes, chanda, etc. Yes.
Okay, any other questions so far? Brenna.
Hi, I guess, so the sutta talks a lot about, I guess urgency going hand in hand with like inspiration and faith in the Dhamma, but it seems to kind of has it as like naturally occurring, but does the sutta outline or or is there a way that it provides, like, for people who don't have this natural like inspiration in the Dhamma that sort of arises at any given time?
Well, again and again, they say that you look to what are the conditions that support going to the next step that you're looking for. And if you looked at the sutta about the getting rid of distracting thoughts, that's like very generally applicable to, if you got some kind of a negativity, something unwholesome, and it just, you don't know how to get out of it, then that gives us the series of 6 steps, starting with just being mindful of it, reflecting about what the consequences would be, and so on, replacing it with something else, and so on, different steps down to, at the very end, just using your willpower. That would be one way. Another way, that I mentioned this during the retreat recently, it's called thinking meditation, as explained by Bhante Gunaratana. I don't know where it's in the suttas, but you take the quality that you wish for and think about it. And so just before you go into meditation, you think about the quality that you're seeking, and that sort of like arouses something in the mind, and then you go and do your regular meditation, and you sort of like preconditioned the mind to have the quality that you need in order to be successful. So those are two methods. Okay, I'm going to go back and read some more. Okay, bhikkhus, if a bhikkhu of such virtue, such a state of concentration, and such wisdom eats alms food consisting of choice hill rice along with various sauces and curries, even that will be no obstacle for him, just as a cloth that is defiled and stained becomes pure and bright with the help of clear water, or just as gold becomes pure and bright with the help of a furnace, so too a bhikkhu of such virtue eats alms food, and it will be no obstacle for him. The explanation for how this came along is found in the Chinese parallel sutta in the Agamas, where there's a story at the beginning of the sutta that's been dropped out of our version. In the story, they encounter a Brahmin person who is questioning them, and this Brahmin is criticizing the Buddha for eating nice food, for eating tasty, delicious alms food. And so then this whole answer so far is giving a rebuttal to the Brahmin's criticism. And in this case, it would be describing the condition of an anagami who has gone beyond the fetter of greed and aversion, are completely dispelled. And so then, no matter what kind of delicious food or anything was put in front of them, it would not cause any greed to arise. And now we come to the Brahmaviharas. He abides, pervading 1/4 with a mind imbued with loving kindness. Likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth, so above, below, around, and everywhere. into all as to himself. He abides pervading the all-encompassing world with a mind imbued with loving kindness, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and without ill will. He abides pervading one quarter with a mind imbued with compassion, with a mind imbued with altruistic joy, with a mind imbued with equanimity. Likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth. So above, below, around, and everywhere, and to all as to himself, he abides pervading the all-encompassing world with a mind imbued with equanimity, abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility, and without ill will. I have heard of loving kindness as a way of getting into the jhanas, or of loving kindness as a type of jhana practice. In this case, the loving kindness and the Brahma Viharas is coming after the jhanas. And it's coming after the bhikkhu has already gained enlightenment, already gained insight, already become a non-returner with only a few of the subtle fetters left before coming to their final accomplishment. And so this is very impressive to me, that this sutta is saying that this practice of the Brahma Viharas is so powerful and so noble that this would be the practice that we would continue to do when we're already on the noble path, already experienced noble fruit, have within view the ultimate accomplishment. So this, I think it's really telling us something very important about the Brahma Viharas. And it makes me wish that maybe in the coming weeks we may pick out a few other suttas that are also speaking about the Brahma Viharas to look in more depth about it, now that we realize, it's not just a beginner's practice. It's a noble practice for the noble ones. Then he understands there is this. There is the inferior, there is the superior, and beyond, there is an escape from this whole field of perception. Okay, got it? So, atti idam, atti hinam, atti panitam, atti imasa sanya gatasa uttarinisarnena pajanati. Now this is giving this word atti is giving you a tip. If you just took the meditation retreat on dependent origination, you would know that there were these two words, atti and bhava. And bhava is referring to this constant state of becoming. And then atti is something that, like when they're asking about heavenly states or about gods and things like that, they use this word atti, thinking of a permanent existence that still has a self. And what it means is, if you are practicing these Brahma Viharas and you die right there, you can be reborn in the Rupa Loka, in the realm, the Brahma realm, and practice loving kindness for I don't know how many thousands of eons. So Ati Idam is referring to a loka, a world. Remember at the very beginning, it was setting it up about where one could be reborn. We'll be afraid of being reborn in a bad destination, our pure mind being reborn in a good destination. Now the sutta has circled back to the question of rebirth. So Ati Idam is referring, Idang is referring to what was just spoken about in the Brahma Viharas. Then there is the inferior, that's the Kama Loka, the world which is affected by desire and craving. That's the world of humans. There is the superior, and that's referring to the formless realm, the realm when you can go to by practicing the formless meditations. And beyond, there is an escape from this whole field of perception, and that will be Nibbana. When he knows and sees this, his mind is liberated from the taint of sensual desire, from the taint of being, from the taint of ignorance. When it is liberated, there comes the knowledge, it is liberated. He understands, birth is destroyed, the holy life has been lived. What had to be done has been done. There is no more coming to any state of being. Bhikkhus, this bhikkhu is called one bathed with the inner bathing. So now the reference to being free from the taints, a taint could be like a sore, which is oozing pus. It's got some kind of a thing like a spot, and it's sort of like the stain on the cloth. And so being bathed in the inner bathing is coming back and coming a full circle on the metaphor of the cleaning the cloth to make it perfectly pure, so that it's able to take the dye and able to go beyond becoming to this other state. Now, again, I will invite any comments.
What you said about the Brahma Viharas reminds me that Ayakema said at the end of her talk on Path and Fruit that the Anagami has the Brahma Viharas as their vehicle to take them all the way.
Huh.
And I've heard Ajahn Brahm say quite a similar thing.
Okay. Linda is reminding us that she's heard both Ayakema and Ajahn Brahm say that the Brahma Viharas is the vehicle that the Anagami uses to go the rest of the way, to go the distance. Ananda?
I don't mean this in a frivolous sense, but it's always struck me like, I don't know why it would be so desirable to go to a Brahmin realm unless you go to a realm where you can continue to practice the Dhamma. What would be the point of having pleasure for several eons and then being bounced back here? Hopefully bounced back here. I mean, assuming that one can continue to practice Dhamma, but it's my understanding that some of the realms above the human, that isn't the case, but some are. Not quite moot at this point, probably, but that's what comes up.
I can't give you a very accurate rendition of this, but for the person who is a non-returner, not coming back to this world, they're going to a heavenly world as an anagami who's just got one more. The next transition will be to a nibbana. And there are other beings in the same realm that have the Brahma Viharas, but they don't have insight and they don't have the noble attainment. And so the angels who don't have any noble attainments are not even able to see the other angels who do have the noble attainments. So there is a heaven which has not gone beyond, which is sort of like destined to fall back, which is maybe like that yak we've heard, maybe not such a good place for practice. But there is a state, an immaterial state for the one who's an anagami, where they wait until they go, if they depart from this life as an anagami, they will go into that heavenly state and maybe practice the Brahma Viharas for 84,000 eons and go from there to Nibbana, because they have the noble attainments and the insight. Diana's going to clarify this for me.
Now, I don't know that this is clear because I don't know. I don't know the names of all the Brahma realms, but there are some Brahma realms where you can practice. But it's not that people are trying to get born there if they understand about liberation. Then you're not trying to get born there. You're just practicing. But if you die before you've completely let go, then you will go to either a better life as a human being or one of the higher realms. Not because you're trying to, just because you haven't completed the work. Yeah.
Are the noble attainments the Brahma Viharas?
No, the noble attainments are stream entry, once returner, non-returner, and fully enlightened arahant.
And it's my understanding that if you have attained at least stream entry, then whatever heavenly realm you arise in, you tend to gravitate toward other Dhamma practitioners in that realm, and you do continue to practice. So it's not like if you get born in heaven, you just can't practice. It's harder to make a breakthrough with stream entry, but once you've got stream entry, then the practice continues.
Linda has heard that if one has stream entry and happens to be reborn in a heavenly realm, you can gravitate to other beings in that same heavenly realm who also have some Dhamma attainments, and you can practice Dhamma together, even in heaven. So it's not impossible to practice in heaven. I want to get a citation for that.
There are stories about Devas. There are many stories about thousands of Devas getting enlightened just by hearing the Buddha. So
well, that's true.
The heavenly realms aren't barren.
In terms of Devas, yeah. So anyway, so that's another thing to know. So don't be afraid of heaven. Just don't be afraid of heaven.
I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of heaven. When I first heard this several years ago, the benefit among many, obviously, of stream entry. That's you're on the path. But when I first heard, stream entry, 7 lifetimes, I thought I could do that. But rolling around in some realm for 500,000 years and then bouncing back here sounded really bad to me. So that's why I was more interested in, hopefully go where you can continue and not lose the thread. That's the most important thing. So.
I think for the gods, the sense of time is different. And so 500,000 human years is just time to take a very short nap for a god. So you don't need to worry about that either. Let me go back to and read the closing of this sutta. Okay. Okay. The bhikkhu is called one bathed in the inner bathing. Now, on that occasion, the Brahmin Sundarika Bharadvaja was sitting not far from the Blessed One. Then he said to the Blessed One, "But does the Master Gotama go to the Bahuka river to bathe?" "Why, Brahmin, go to the Bahuka river? What can the Bahuka river do?" "Master Gotama, the Bahuka river is held by many to give liberation. It is held by many to give merit. And many wash away their evil actions in the Bahuka river." Then the Blessed One addressed the Brahmin Sundarika Bharadvaja in stanzas. Bahuka and Adhikaka, Gaya and Sundarika too, Payaga, Saraswati, and the stream Bahumati. A fool may there forever bathe, yet will not purify dark deeds. What can the Sundarika bring to pass? What the Payaga? What the Bahuka? They cannot purify an evildoer. A man who has done cruel and brutal deeds, one pure in heart, has evermore the feast of spring, the holy day. One fair in act, one pure in heart, brings his virtue to perfection. It is here, Brahmin, that you should bathe, to make yourself a refuge for all beings. And if you speak no falsehood, nor work harm for living beings, nor take what is offered not, with faith and free from avarice, what need for you to go to Gaya? For any well will be your Gaya. When this was said, the Brahmin Sundarika Bharadvaja said, "Magnificent Master Gotama, magnificent Master Gotama, Master Gotama has made the Dhamma clear in many ways, as though he were turning upright what had been overthrown, revealing what was hidden, showing the way to one who was lost, or holding up a lamp in the dark for those with eyesight to see forms. I go to Master Gotama for refuge, and to the Dhamma and to the Sangha of bhikkhus. I would receive the going forth under Master Gotama. I would receive the full admission." And the Brahmin Sundarika Bharadvaja received the going forth under the Blessed One, and he received the full admission. And soon, not long after his full admission, dwelling alone, withdrawn, diligent, ardent, and resolute, the Venerable Bharadvaja, realizing for himself with direct knowledge, here and now entered upon and abided in that supreme goal of this holy life, for the sake of which clansmen rightly go forth from the home life into homelessness. He directly knew, birth is destroyed, the holy life has been lived, what had to be done has been done, there is no more coming to any state of being. And the Venerable Bharadvaja became one of the Arahants. Sadhu, 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 anumodami. It seems that the teaching at the very end in that poem was teaching like the very first step along the gradual training of becoming free from superstitious ideas and gaining that initial right view, and then undertaking one's basic sila in terms of purifying the mind and not stealing and so forth like that. In this way, Bharadvaja, he was not at that moment ready for this sublime teaching that the Blessed One had been giving to the bhikkhus. And so that's why he, sort of missed the boat. And he said, well, it's something about purification. So did you go to the river to purify yourself? So he didn't get it. And then the Buddha, demonstrating his skillful means, he does a completely different teaching, which is pitched at the level that will be beneficial. And this is both the Buddha's skill and the Buddha's compassion. And it's because of being able to aim the teaching that then he got the result of causing him, Bharadvaja, to be converted and to acquire faith in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, and be able to go on. I just thought that one sentence about saying, there is this is lower, this is higher, but there's something beyond. It's so kind of like a cryptic. A person who was a beginner to the Dhamma, who didn't read the footnotes or didn't have access to the Pali or didn't have quite a bit more like context, I might not be able to pick up the significance of that. But I'm so glad that we just took the course in dependent origination, because having taken that course, when I saw that sentence, even without looking up what it meant, it was like, quite clear what that signified.
There's a very different explanation in the Bodhi's notes.
Oh, yeah, right. The commentarial explanation is there is this means the first noble truth of dukkha. So there is dukkha. And then that there is something lower, and that's the cause of dukkha, which is craving. And there is something higher, which is the Eightfold Noble Path. And then there's the escape, which is the end of suffering, which is the Third Noble Truth. The reason I didn't mention it is because I don't think that Buddha would have given a sermon that gave the first, second, fourth, and third noble truth. He would have given a sutta that he would have given a metaphor that or something that was giving it in the right order. But that's the commentarial meeting. I think this may be enough. I'm so glad that all of us had the strength to come, and I might see some of you on Tuesday night. Maureen, I'm going to send you an email with all of your logins that you will need, and you can just save that email, and any week that you want to come in to our weekly programs, you can use those links. They won't be changing. Okay, let's pay respects to the Triple Gem. Arahant Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddham Bhagavantam Harivadi Svakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammanamasami. Subhati Bando Bhagavata